days you work, one whole day to play. Come on everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday,
Saturday with Renee. All right, what's up, world? Welcome back to Black Liberation Media in episode 123, consecutive, uninterrupted episodes of Saturdays with Renee, featuring Renee Johnston. I am Jared Ball, happy to be your co-host. Please like, share, subscribe, support the Patreon. You can hit the QR code right there, put a comment, join the undefeated chat, put this in your socials, and be aware that we are not live. But Renee, how you feeling?
Listen, I'm so excited for this conversation that I'm like giddy, right? And so, as always, because fucking life, right? Like it's been nonstop for the past 2 days, including me having to get 2 fillings done yesterday, which I don't know if you've ever had. You know, they do this whole quadrant thing with your mouth when they do the shots so that they can numb your face. And so it was like the top left and the bottom right, which I have to say is the weirdest feeling ever. Like I felt like a stroke patient because my face was literally twisted because of the part of my mouth that could move on both the top and bottom. And then, you know, they tell you not to eat because you'll like chew through your face by mistake because you can't feel anything. So then I was hungry. It was a disaster, yo. It was a disaster. And then, like, I still had to pick up the child, and I still had to make dinner, and I still had to get on a panel because they were doing this thing on disenfranchisement. And so, I know, I forgot to tell everybody. My bad. I realized it, like, as I was talking. I was like, oh, I didn't tell anybody I was sitting on this panel. I know. And then today I'm scheming. I'm trying to figure out, like, can I do another book talk with Brian? Can I do a screening now that Matthew's, you know, his movie's now premiered and he's ready to go? And then I finished that awful ass book yesterday. And so I spent a lot of time today telling everybody not to read the awful ass book because it was so disappointing. And then I was really excited for tonight. And so, yes, we are pre-recorded. And I suspect that any time we get to grace you all with Luna and EJ, it's going to have to be pre-recorded because they're on the other side of the world and they get up to do this with us, which is much appreciated. But that means, like, we're never going to get them live because I don't feel like that's fair to be like, can you stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning to do a live stream? I just don't think that. But you know what the real bad side of this is I don't think we can get them with Dwayne on the same.
Somebody would have to make a tremendous sacrifice.
Somebody's gonna have to sacrifice, and I mean, not being funny, but it won't be me. So I don't want to. I don't want to make any determinations about how
even though this pre-record is my fault, staying up to what will be 9 p.m. my time is a sacrifice.
I know. I thought of that.
This is 2 nights in a row because I messed around and accepted an invitation last night that had me literally out of the house until 10:30 at night, which is just. And then to turn around back to back and be up till 9 whole p.m.
Yeah, you wilding with that.
I'm acting crazy right now.
Yeah,
but
you out of control.
These are the sacrifices we make for the struggle.
And it's worth it for the struggle. This panel yesterday was Central Time, so it started. They kept saying we're starting at 7:30, and I was like, "Is it?" I was like, "Fuck, that's 8:30." They didn't end until 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. Whew. Man, listen, I was half dead. Like, let's go. It's close to bedtime. I went downstairs. I was so tired today. I went downstairs to get something. And by the time I got to the bottom of the stairs, I forgot what I had gone downstairs to get. And I was like standing at the bottom of the stairs, like, why do I?
Oh, that's just a standard Thursday for me. But,
brutal.
Listen,
but yes, we are pre-recorded. But go ahead, go.
One more quick joke about the pre-record, because I can't help but enjoy it's always humorous to me. We're not live today because where I will be live while we are airing is in church. So I've been invited to the Nebo AME Church to give a talk on Black History Month. So it's going to be
you said you was going to be in the church, like you was actually going to be at church.
Is it? It's.
I don't think it's the same if it's not during a sermon, though.
I know it's probably I know it's a Saturday.
Yeah,
but I'll be in a church.
Those talks be good. I did a talk at that church in Boston like a year and a half ago on the Cop City thing. And
I love church talk. I love church. Church is like I always have fun. Like I know it sounds comical because I'm always talking about my atheism and all of that. But I always have fun, whether I'm in church at a service or a political organization or giving a talk. I always enjoy it. And I make my little joke about, who they let in the building, and they usually enjoy it and have a good time. And we, and then we build. And then they happily usher the heathen on out, and we all go on about our business.
As long as you don't start smoking while you're in there, like
I mean, like
I mean, like physically, your body don't start smoking.
I walk by, get the holy water and everything, just to let everybody know I'm okay.
Oh man! Well, I'll try to be in the chat, because I'll be once again out like early in the morning, but out on the streets, and so. But I'll try and be in the chat, so at least there's that. But it was. I feel like this was good timing that you had to pre-record, because I feel like anytime one of us has to pre-record, we should automatically think of EJ
overseas,
and say like, can we how long has it been since we last forced them to be here, and then can we force them to join us again since we have to pre-record anyway and just make it fit. But we got to figure out this thing with Dwayne, so and I'll explain why in a little bit, but we might, I think I would sacrifice for that. I would get up really early in the morning to do that, because I feel like all those brains in one space is a necessity. So,
well, if I'm the last one holding it up, I'll drag myself to the buttons.
So if we get a thumbs up, we can bring everybody in.
All right, let's, without further ado, let's
not delay any further.
Look at that. We can bring up our guests. Yay! Hey! How about that? Welcome.
Excited. Very excited. So, as everyone knows, we excitedly invited EJ and Luna to come and join us. This was now last month. This was a while ago, right? And so, but we spent a lot of time talking about like you, which I am all for, but then we didn't actually get to like the whole like actual dialectics thing, which was supposed to be the point. But I also feel like for us to get there, people have to know how you got where you are, so that they can fully like understand, where things got to, like how this happened, right? Because the story was fascinating. So if you all missed the show that we did previously with Luna and EJ, then you have to make sure you go back and watch that one so that you can get the full background. And then, because Alkmi is always so excited, I just felt like if we had an excuse to like bring him in with you two, that like it would be a great idea. And so I did not send Alkmi's response to me to anybody because I didn't ask him permission, but I will say that he was super excited to get the invite. And so
I'm quietly trying not to freak out right now, just so you all know, especially
right.
So, like meeting your
and
heroes.
so
kind
of the goal really is, as always, is to do everything that we can to give people a space to understand better, to learn something, and to use whatever we gave as they move forward in whatever thing that they're planning next. So, as always, before we get started, EJ and Luna, I will invite you first to introduce yourselves again for the folks who weren't here the last time, who aren't familiar with you, and you can tell the people who you are, where you're at, what you do, and then we'll let Alkmi take it over from there.
Okay. Hi. I do first. I'm Luna. I'm a Vietnamese communist. I have a YouTube channel called Luna Ơi. I talk about Vietnam mostly. And thank you for inviting us again.
Yeah. Maybe I should introduce you instead of you introducing yourself. You're too humble. Luna runs a fantastic YouTube channel on Vietnam culture, politics, sometimes food, although she's thinking about spinning that up into a cooking channel if anybody's interested in that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about making a cooking channel.
It's a really great youtube.com/Luna Oi, which just means hey Luna in Vietnamese. And also in Brazilian, we found out from our Brazilian comrades. They always very excited. I'm EJ. I started the channel Non-Compete, which is now a media collective with like 5 or 6 of us now contributing to that channel. That's a little bit more focused on Western politics, but we do talk about, of course, things like imperialism and
fascism.
Fascism is part and parcel with imperialism and all that stuff, and geopolitics and that sort of thing. So we're very excited to be here again. We had a great time last time talking about the historical development of Luna and me a little bit, but now we're here to talk about the real deal. Luna has, by the way, translated these incredible. These are the Vietnamese curriculum on. Wait a minute. Yeah, dialectical materialism and historical materialism. We just bootlegged our own book because we gave away all of our actual copies, which you can do too, because the ebook is totally free and it's Creative Commons. So if you live in a place like Vietnam where you can photocopy things really cheaply, have at it.
Yeah.
Distribute to your heart's desire. Yeah, these are great though, by the way. You can get these at banyanhouse.org or lunaoi.com, free ebook, or you can get a print copy if you'd like.
Your turn, Alkmi.
Hi, everyone.
Giddy.
Hi, everyone. 안녕하세요.
Konnichiwa.
It's I don't my Korean's not up to par, unfortunately.
Same here. I was really worried you would keep that going.
I'm a fucking diaspora. You know how Luna, you know how the diaspora. All I'm gonna say is everyone knows me, Dr. Ball, Sister Renee. I'm a student of you all. Luna, EJ, I'm a student of you all too. I'm just humbled, privileged, honored, grateful to be here. I'm just an Okinawan, Korean, Japanese decolonial student of Marxism-Leninism. And most of my foundation for being a decolonial Marxist-Leninist comes from Luna's invaluable labor. And you're too, EJ. So thank you. I'm just here to learn.
Me too.
So Alkmi is the reason that I found Luna, actually.
Oh wow.
So because Alkmi was like, you have to watch this channel, and he sent
more Brother Josh
links.
in a mediated way. But...
And this was, so I mean, I know like Josh was, at the start of it, but I hadn't watched that show. The reason I knew was because Alkmi sent me the links. So it is Alkmi that got me to you, Luna, which I'm still very grateful for, and then I sent your links everywhere because I was like, you have to watch this. And so that's so that's where we are. Jared, are you gonna do the like quiet eyebrow like listen thing? Is that the plan? Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that
unless you have any specifics for me, and unless I hear something in the midst,
So,
in general, I'm just going to be, quiet and eyebrowed up. Yep.
So I will say quietly, and I didn't say any of this in the email because I forgot that I did this. So when I reached out to EJ and Luna, this was a couple of weeks ago, to ask, like, is this doable? And then you were both sick. So I'm really glad that you're both feeling better, because we
were so sick that we were like a week off. Because I thought, I was just like, oh no, we have Saturday with Renee tomorrow. I messaged you on Signal or something, and I was like, oh, we're too sick to do the show tomorrow. And then I immediately was like, oh wait, the show's not till next week. No, we're fine now. We're a little sniffly.
Okay, my mom believes it's because of the virus flu, not like a normal bacteria flu. That was why it took us like 2-3 weeks to really recover.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, we took a like a 4-panel COVID flu blah 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 test, and it was all negative. So whatever we got, it was really nasty and did not show up on any test or anything. But it's gone now, thankfully.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
We were good.
So part of this, outside of Jared saying I have to pre-record and me saying, oh, this is perfect because we could do a night show and then we can ask EJ and Luna to come back, was also shout out to Intume, who on his show spoke with Gabrielle Rockhill. It is Rockhill, right? Okay. So they had a conversation about his book, Who Paid the Piper of Western Marxism. And in the process of their conversation, they really started to dig in to, like, how do we utilize the work? Like, how do we actually, like, expand what we're doing? They talked a lot about, like, culture and how the system utilizes culture to entrap us and propaganda us, and like, how do we find a way through that to use the culture to do the things that we want the culture to do. And so I was kind of enthralled in the conversation, and I sent the link, and no pressure. I don't know if you had time. You were sick. I don't know if you had time to listen to it. And then on top of that, I had the audacity to forget to tell Jared and Alkmi that I had shared the link with you. Now, Jared, I know, has listened to it, because that was part of the reason that I remembered to listen to it, was because Jared said something to Intume on one of our group chats. I don't know if Alkmi had listened to.
I'm a fan of his, comrade sister. So I've seen him on Adnan Hussein and other Constellation meetings. So yeah, I'm a fan. Mm-hmm.
So I immediately called Intume, because I was like, listen, I don't know how we're going to make all of this work, but I have to figure out a way for all of the brains that are going to help me to help people understand how to use this work in what they're doing. So between you all and Alkmi, who's like able to translate things so that the regular person can follow, since he was like a regular person reading it, and then Intume and Gabrielle Rockhill and you two and Dwayne, and I don't know what room on what coast we're gonna figure this. We have to figure it out though. And so I am really, really excited about the possibility of how we actually use the work. And so I wanted to start there.
All I need is 1 cup of Vietnamese coffee, and I can be anywhere, anytime.
It's skyrocket.
It's rocket fuel. So just we can make it happen.
Yes.
Luna, is the Cuban coffee stronger than Vietnamese, or Vietnamese stronger than Cuban? I know about you guys' friendship.
That's a dangerous question. I don't know. Should I? What do you think? Can you say? Are you allowed to say?
Say
Cuban coffee or Vietnamese coffee, which is stronger?
Oh my god, I want to try Cuban coffee.
Luna's never had Cuban coffee.
There's a Vietnamese comrade who traveled to Cuba, and they did try the Cuban coffee. That's really freaking good.
Good, but is it strong?
But is it stronger than y'all's though?
It's pretty strong. It's pretty strong.
I have to research
according
it.
to that.
The Cuban coffee that I've had in the USA, which is not, I mean, who knows? It's like cigars, it's probably not really Cuba or origin, but anyway,
coffee.
Based on that, I would say the Vietnamese coffee is way stronger, because it's what they actually drink here is the Robusta.
Yeah, Robusta.
which is like really strong. I don't like the Arabica as much as the Robusta, but most people think I'm,
not just only
way off base with
Robusta, we drink super thick.
it's really
Robusta.
thick. The
We
way
don't
that
water it down.
yeah, they
We
use a
don't water
drip
it down
coffee
at all.
filter, and it's like really, really strong.
Super thick.
But
That
I
sounds
probably haven't had the most authentic Cuban coffee, so it's probably not a fair comparison.
Well, I'm in. whatever we're doing, we're gonna figure it out. So I guess my initial question that I'd like to ask is, so in trying to introduce the idea of dialectics into an actual organizing space, right? I think what I fear most is like someone saying like, well, what is it like? What does this have to do with like the organizing? Like what does this have to do with it? And so I'm curious about if you have any thoughts on how do we use this book in an actual like real life way, right? Outside of just now I understand something about dialectics. Like, how do I actually use this in an organizing space towards trying to get people to move towards understanding like what the real work is?
Okay, so I think Luna has a little bit, and you talked about it yourself, so that's why I feel comfortable saying this. Luna has a little bit of a blind spot on this question because she grew up with it.
I grew up with,
So for her, it's like
between communists.
Yeah, so for Luna and a lot of Vietnamese communists who grew up learning this stuff, it's like
it's
the air.
Yeah, it's the air that we breathe.
Yeah.
So actually, before I do this channel, I never even thought about it.
Yeah, but I can say as somebody who learned it much more recently from Luna, I think there's three things that because I've had this question many times. A lot of people are like reading the book and they're like, I don't know. There's one diagram that people keep bringing up that I don't know if they don't like it or not, but it's the one of the chair. There's a picture of a chair in here somewhere, but they're like, why? How is this helping
It's the
me?
content form, right, comrade?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And they're like, what does this have to do with organizing? Like being able to identify what a chair is? It's like so abstract, and blah blah. Yeah, here it is. Talking about the inner and outer form and everything, right? So it does seem like very abstract and unrelated to organizing, but to me, there's three things that you can pick up and use right away, and it helps to sharpen your analysis and your understanding of political systems and the world around you and your activities. And the first one would be the relationship between the material and the ideal, because one of the biggest stumbling blocks of the Western, left, whatever you want to call it, is, in my opinion, idealism.
Yeah.
And it's thinking that the most important thing we can do is talk and debate and
Who has
conceptualize
the purest ideas.
Right. And when I came into politics in a serious way, around the time that Trump won the first election in 2015, 2016, that time, I was very much an idealist. And I very much thought that the most important thing we could do is sit around and talk about the best system for some future utopian society.
That's
and
so funny.
I got involved in those endless wheel spinning debates, like, will there be restaurants in a communist society? And stuff like, and it's like so detached that, to me, that's very detached. That's very abstract and has nothing to do with what we're dealing with right now.
That sounds very alien to me.
So what we have to do is we have to understand, and what this helps us do is understand that dialectical relationship between the material base of society and superstructure and ideology and ideas and all those things. And as the material, as that podcast episode you shared with Renee, with Dr. Rockhill was talking about, that the superstructure is very important, culture is very important, but it's all determined by the economic base of society. It's all determined by capitalism. Capitalism is the primary contradiction, and you have to understand the material foundation. And when you say material, that can be a stumbling block too for like understanding this stuff. Material just means it's a synonym in this framework for objective, economic. It's the things that have to do with how humans produce the things we need to survive. Okay, so the economic base.
Yeah, so the superstructure is more about how actually when problems happen, it mostly appear to you as superstructure. You know it through the superstructure.
Yeah.
Superstructure is the thing that will make you understand your problems and see it and how it affects you. But the point of it is to change. And that is about the base. If you want to change the superstructure, you have to do it through the base. You cannot just like, just stay in the superstructure field alone. It's not enough.
And yeah, but we're kind of I think we're getting a little too far from the main point, which is that all these problems we have with the culture and with the government and with the, superstructure aspects of society, they stem from material causes and conditions and relationships. Now that brings us to number 2. If you can wrap your head around the next 2 things I'm going to say, I think you really are on your way to understanding the value of dialectical materialism. Number 1 is we define things by relationships.
Yes.
Okay. So in metaphysical philosophy that you're probably going to learn when you're getting like I did when you get like a bachelor's degree in the USA, you take a few philosophy courses and you're learning like metaphysical philosophy. And that is, first of all, usually very idealistic because you're usually over-indexing on the importance of human consciousness and human ideas and debate and discourse and that sort of thing. Whereas, Marxists were more interested in proving what's true and what's not through practice.
Yes.
Right. But the way that we define things is not through characteristics, which is how we're conditioned in.
And they are not static.
Yeah. In the Western education system, we're kind of taught to think of things in terms of categorizing things. It's this very like
Static,
ancient Greek
never
way
change.
of like taxonomy. You break things up into categories, and those are based on characteristics, and then those things basically never change. So like a fish is an animal that lives in the water and it has fins and it has scales. But dialectical materialism makes us look at the relationships and also the development of something to understand it. And we understand that development always comes from relationships, and relationships always lead to development. So that's the third thing, is understanding development and historical development. And
because we don't see things as processes nor as connected in the West, but it's the opposite, like you said, stultified,
that's
frozen,
key.
And disconnected.
Something that really helped me understand what Marx was talking about when it comes to capitalism was it was a lecture I saw on YouTube, and I always forget the person's name, but it was on Capital, and the lecturer said Marx sees capitalism as a process in motion.
Yes.
And and so the whole reason that Marx developed
sounds like David Harvey.
Yes, it was David Harvey. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so the whole reason that Marx came up with this framework was so that we could understand really complicated things like human society and capitalism.
Yes.
Because those things are constantly changing and they have so many moving parts. And so in order to wrap our heads around it, because humans are not good at, we're just not, designed to think about things that are that big and that complicated and moving all the time. It's easier for us to think of like little bite-sized concepts.
Into parts.
But the problem with metaphysical philosophy, which breaks things down into categories and classifications based on characteristics, is that it is an inaccurate way of viewing these really complicated moving systems. So what this allows us to do is analyze these complicated systems in motion, but it still breaks it down into things that we can, and that's what the beauty of, I think, the Vietnamese curriculum is that, it talks about these universal category pairs, for instance. So a lot of people get confused about like, what are these universal category pairs, like content and form,
essence and
phenomena,
private and common.
Yeah. So what those are, those are just relationships that, and that we say that they're universal because they can be used to discuss or talk about or understand anything.
Yes.
And so dialectical materialism is a universal philosophy that by design is supposed to be able to. So one of the things that, let's talk about the problems that Engels and Marx were struggling with in the 19th century that led to these ideas. At that time, science was developing really rapidly.
Yes.
And one of the things Engels talked about was, by necessity, for like centuries, science was split up into smaller fields because like you have to do that to like have any coherence with the work you're doing. So you have to have like physics, which is separate from biology, which is separate from medicine, right? et cetera, et cetera. And it's just easier to like grapple with a field when it's like severed off like that, because you can at least, you can focus, right? And then that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. Engels wasn't like saying that that's bad, but what he realized is that by the time they were writing in the 19th century, they had accumulated so much data in so many different fields that now they were grappling with the problem of synthesizing all of this information and all these discoveries and all these different fields together. And they needed like a universal framework for scientific analysis and inquiry.
Yeah.
And that's really what, and studying economics as they were doing to try to understand the problems of society and capitalism is what made them realize that you need this unifying framework. Because in studying economics, they started to realize, oh, we got to learn about science. We have to learn about, not just economics, but like social science. We need to learn about
sociology, legal forms, technology, relation to nature.
Yeah, and technology, for instance, is a huge part of what they were talking about, because technology was changing so fast, and that was changing the ways in which capitalism was functioning and the relationships between workers and the means of production and all these different things. So they realized they needed a framework to unify all this information and all these different discoveries and wrap their heads around it, because it was just overwhelming.
Exactly.
And if you read their correspondence, they were grappling with this problem that scientists had also identified. I'm talking about natural scientists, physicists and that sort of thing. And so they came up with dialectical materialism as a universal framework where you could take any field and interpret it through dialectical materialism and synthesize it into that framework. And in the time since then, in the centuries since then, comrades in the Soviet Union and Vietnam and all around the world have shown that you can interpret anything through dialectical and historical materialism. Now, the problem with Luna's work is that she's translating a huge body of basically 4 books that are like compressed into one volume in Vietnam.
Yes.
And so this is the most general, most universal philosophy that underlies everything else in Marxism. This is part 2, which is on historical materialism. And this is about like human society and stuff. Now, if you read this book, you start to get more of a understanding of like how this actually relates to our movement.
Yes.
Okay. So like, if
the
you read,
first book is like the foundation.
Yeah. And it sucks because I hate to tell somebody like you have to read this almost 300-page book and then you're not done yet. You got to read this book next. And this book's also like 300 pages. It's a lot. It is a lot. And that's why, first of all, we always encourage people not to study this stuff alone. If you can get into like a study group, or we hope to eventually do some, lectures or workshops or something.
We also studied this in class.
In
Vietnam with like 100 classmates around us, and we go to the library, we do a group presentation together. So like we totally do it like in group in Vietnam.
Yeah. And that's why these are so heavily annotated, because the stuff that's in the annotations is the stuff that you would learn in Vietnam through either your lecturer or through your background knowledge of having attended, Vietnamese K-12 education, where they teach the basics of this stuff.
Okay.
But
back to the another point of the question of Renee is about the organizing.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to tell you that like Vietnamese students, when we study these books, like as there's like something like embedded in our head already, it makes it very easy to organize together, because instead of arguing ideological kind of questions, like, oh, are you like this and that, like, okay, though I cannot work with you. No, actually, when we organize together, we put aside those small differences. We focus on the problems themselves. And
practice.
Then practice it. And when we understand a problem, we use these like pair of categories to really analyze them and understand the core problem. Like, okay, you see this, but is that like the core issue? What is the core issue that cause?
Is that them?
Yeah, I think that's them.
Okay.
Could you say that again, Sister Luna? I'm sorry.
We might have to give
They
them
might
a
be
second
frozen. Yeah.
to come on back. While they're doing that, just remind everybody to go ahead and like, share, subscribe, support the platform, put a comment, and you're welcome. Just in advance, everyone, you're welcome. So we'll work to get them back. I know the chat is chatting.
I'm sure.
But
I'm sure.
So I
See,
think
it's the state. The state don't like these conversations. They're not trying to. They're not trying to have us working together.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
I don't know where we got cut off.
Yeah.
Let's
But
make sure you're fully back. I
basically,
think you're still not fully back, and
Shit.
we may.
What the?
Are we here? Are we here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Is it a video? As much as I hate to say it.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, but they might be all right right now. We can give it another shot.
Well, I did just turn off our VPN.
Okay.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah,
Yes.
that might actually be an issue. Yeah, so that could be it.
I didn't realize that it was on, so I just turned it off.
Yeah,
And hopefully that fixes things.
Okay.
Yeah. So Luna was saying you were talking about how
you were
Vietnamese people don't
explaining-
argue with each other when they
Right.
get into a dialectical
Yes,
materialism.
So you were
It is true.
explaining getting to the core issue when it started.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
freeze.
Okay, so Vietnamese people, when we gather together to deal with things, that I am a member of the Communist Youth Union in Vietnam, and I do a lot of volunteer kind of works. I do help the community. So when we get together, we instantly what are the issues? What are the core problem of the issue, and how are we gonna fix that? And then we get together step by step on how to do it. We really don't have to waste our time at all arguing about, okay, what do you believe? Are you atheist or not? Like, no, it's not related in this kind of situation. So pretty much it makes us more effective in dealing with things, and makes us understand better about the problems that we are dealing with.
Yeah, it's a framework for practice. It's the practice is the focus. It's the emphasis. And I think that's what my experience with being around Vietnamese communists dealing with issues in the community or whatever the problem they're trying to solve. And what I noticed that's different between when I'm working with, my fellow folks in like the USA and in the West, whatever that means, is that there tends to be a lot more focus on practice being the deciding factor in like settling a disagreement or dispute or debate or whatever. Yeah. So it's like in the US, when I'm working with people, a lot of times we'll just like endlessly debate, like, should we do A or B? And we'll just like have all kinds of these like thought experiments and discourse and arguing and political like jockeying and stuff. Whereas in Vietnam, it tends to be like, okay, well, let's try this and see if it works. And that's like the emphasis is on like doing something and seeing what happens and then analyzing what happens as a result. And so, for instance, like with the youth union volunteer work that Lynn was talking about, they do these things called Blue Summer every single year, where they go into, usually it's like out in the mountains or somewhere remote where they have a village, and they try to build them infrastructure, things like solar lights or playgrounds, whatever. And so they have to make decisions like, okay, how much money are we going to raise? What are we going to do with that money? Yes. What are we going to do for the people in the village? What are their problems? What are their needs? And whenever they have a disagreement, like, should we buy solar panels for this, like solar lights for this village, or should we buy a playground? It's like, well, okay, instead of like having a really long discussion about it, they'll either maybe go visit the village,
exactly,
talk to the people,
2 or 3 people as scout team,
or they'll talk to other.
Exactly, they would go to that place, talk to the people there.
Yeah,
we talk to the leader of the people there and talk to the people to see like, okay, what do you need?
Yeah,
what do you want? List of all the things that you need. And then we would come and report all that, and we sit together like, okay, this is what they need. This is what we can do. Yeah. This is what we want to do. So like 3. Or
they'll go talk to the village that they helped last year.
Yes.
And say like, okay, how are those lights holding up?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Should we buy the same kind of, like, and it's like a subtle thing. And I'm not trying to paint folks in the US and in the West with like too broad of a brush. Of course, there are people that are really effective at getting things done and everything like that. Yes. But I just think that the point of dialectical materialism is that you don't know if something's true or not by talking about it and thinking about it. You find out if something's true or not through practice, through observing reality. And that's like basically the last third of the first book here, Dialectical Materialism, talks about the relationship between practice and theory. And so right here, there's this diagram, and you can see there's truth at the top, and then I don't know if this is reversed or not, but yeah, truth and practical activities. They're related to each other. And the more you practice, the more you engage in practical activities, the deeper and more accurate your truth will be, your understanding of the real world. And truth just means like one of the big points of dialectical materialism and Marx's whole thing is trying to align your thinking with the real world.
Yeah.
So there's this concept of like false consciousness. False consciousness would be any ideas that you have that misalign with reality. And we all of us have to struggle with false consciousness throughout our entire lives. And this is a framework for eliminating false consciousness as much as possible and discovering as much truth as you possibly can. And of course, that just makes our organizing activities more productive.
Yeah, and another side note about organizing is that you should also look into democratic centralism, which is, I have a whole video series about it. This is like the organizing principle of Vietnam that is very, very important. Long story short, democratic centralism means that once a problem is brought up to the group and voted for the solution or an idea, once the majority people vote for a thing, for a solution, the rest of the people have to follow that. They cannot like sabotage or like disagree on anything, because like it is the principle. When the majority agree, you have to follow. What you can do during the time, if you still disagree, is like you watch, you observe, and you give your opinion after the thing is done, and explain why it did not succeed or why it succeeded, and then, you know, align the next meeting. So the point is that you have to respect democracy, but also at the same time, you still have the chance to give your voice after the vote already happened. So it's very, very important. And I think with idealism in the West, democratic centralism is a very, very useful tool for you to fight against individualism.
Individualism is one of the biggest problems we have. I mean, and a lot of people, I think, honestly, I'm not kidding when I say this. I think Luna's video series on democratic centralism at this moment, it's the best English language, like I don't know, introduction to democratic centralism that I've ever seen. And we really want to take the work she did, which is compiling a lot of mostly like Vietnamese articles, I guess, and we want to turn that into a book at some point, which would be like a guide to democratic centralism.
I think it would be a great guidebook.
It gets misinterpreted. It gets misinterpreted a lot in the West, including
it's authoritarian.
Yeah, well,
yes.
Not only that,
the centralism word in it.
Not only that, but there are Marxists.
Us Asians know what collectivism is. You know, Luna, it's these fucking, settlers. They don't understand the individual has to have freedom through the collective. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, the dialectic between the individual and society. But again, because of like democratic centralism in the West, I've seen it be abused. I've seen it be misinterpreted, and that leads to problems as well. Because sometimes it does turn into this like culty thing where there have been like problems that basically don't get solved because of like cliquishness and that sort of thing. And so like it can be abused and misinterpreted. I'm not saying that happens most of the time. Most Marxists who study this stuff are, hopefully able to apply it properly. But a lot of people are afraid to try it because they think that it's like some kind of authoritarian, culty, anti-individual, whatever thing, where the way Luna explains it in her video, hopefully you would understand that it's not anti-individual. It actually empowers individuals when practiced properly to have a voice and a dissenting voice, but in a productive manner, so that instead of just squabbling about things, the point is that the whole point of democratic centralism is it arises from these principles of dialectical materialism, that we seek truth through practice and we find out what will and won't work through practice. And like there's this great quote by Ho Chi Minh that I think applies here, and it's better to act and be wrong than to do nothing. And a lot of times I think we get mired in analysis paralysis in the West, and I've been in groups where we're trying to start something up and we'll end up spending like months debating it, and it can get very vitriolic and it can get very like personality driven.
And nothing happened.
And then at the end, it all falls apart because nobody could ever, and all that really had to do is at the very beginning, just take a vote on what we should try first. And it's a more, when I say scientific, I mean, I'm actually talking about like what, like people in lab coats, like you think of a scientist trying to solve a problem, right? They come into it with a hypothesis, but you're not supposed to, as a scientist, be married to that hypothesis. It's an idea, it's an educated guess about what might work, what might be true. And then the point is to have an experiment and discover if it's true or not. And if you talk to like natural scientists, people who work in labs and that sort of thing, when a hypothesis is proven wrong, that's not considered a failure as an experiment. You've learned something from that.
Yes,
and that's what Ho Chi Minh's saying.
We learned that it didn't work, so write it down in the notes for the next people, like, don't try that.
Yeah, it didn't work this time. But yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Ho Chi Minh said it's better to act and be wrong, because you've learned from that mistake. Now, Fred Hampton said a very similar thing. He said, we have to do... I'm always just blown away by how wise Fred Hampton was for being like less than half my age when he was assassinated. But like he talked all the time about how we have to go out and do stuff, and we're going to be wrong and we're going to fail, but we're going to learn from those failures. And it's very important that we fail. Yeah. And that we learn from those failures. Yes. Like that is how we develop ourselves as individuals and as a movement. So the point of democratic centralism isn't that the individuals all have to just fall in line. The point is that we decide collectively what we're going to try to do. Yeah. And if you like dissent and you think it's a bad idea, your job then at that point becomes you're the critic. Yes. And your job is to take note of everything, and write down, literally write down what's going on. And explain to
people why you fail, why it didn't work.
But you do all this with an open mind, because maybe you're wrong.
Maybe
the group is right.
Yes.
And if they're right, you have to recognize that, right? So there's this concept of it's like unity, critique unity. Yes. Right. So the idea is it's always supposed to begin with unity and end with unity, and the critique is only supposed to be this like middle step in the dialectic.
It's like a negation.
Right. Exactly. It's all about understanding where you fit into this dialectical process of development, right? And the relationship that you have with the collective. And it should not be animosity. If you get to the point where you feel like you're fighting against the group because you disagree with them about something, you're doing it wrong, right? You can definitely go in. It's totally valid to go into a collective activity and be like, this is probably not going to work out. And it's totally valid to have those feelings. And it's totally valid for you to keep track of it and try to, have a strong argument for when the action is done, to be like, okay, I don't like to say I told you so, but this is what I said would happen. That's what happened. Now maybe we could try, then you can like make a case, build a case for why maybe we should try your idea now. But the point is that like, you don't go into it, like what I see all the time. And I have these tendencies myself of going into it as like, I know what's best. All these people are ding dongs.
So funny.
It's and that can be there's a great I can't remember what's the who wrote Tyranny of Structurelessness, Luna?
Oh, Tyranny of Structurelessness.
It was a feminist article. It's by Joe Freeman. So it's a really short read. It's not Marxist, but I still think it's a really great work. It's it's really, really good. It's a feminist. It's feminist literature from I think the 80s or the 70s.
Can you say that title one more time? Sorry, can you say the title one more time?
The Tyranny of Structurelessness. And I think there's a book, but there's also just a short paper, and the short paper is like really like hits all the main points. But it talks about how a lot of people in the West don't like the idea of like organizational structure, because there's this perception that it's like authoritarian, or it's
hang up about it from the class history that we have.
Right, yeah, and yeah, exactly. There are a lot of cases in bourgeois society where that is true, right? But what Joe Freeman points out is that when you have no structures and you have just like absolute, chaos in an organization, what happens is it becomes personality driven.
Yes.
And then it's just whoever has the strongest personality, whoever has the loudest voice, which tend to be, as Joe Freeman pointed out, like white men, they're the ones that end up dominating the organization. So that's why it's important to have these structures in place, like democratic centralism, these frameworks that make sure that everybody, even dissenting voices, are able to play their role in developing the.
And also we learn to respect other people, other voices.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah, and
All right. So, and you can tell me if this sounds crazy. And Alkmi, as much as I just want y'all who are in the chat right now, because Alkmi's probably going to be in the chat because this is, I can just imagine, right? So Alkmi's like quietly in the private chat right now, like, I can't believe you have me like with all these people. Like, he is not literally working with Dwayne Monroe to like write up a whole like thing. Like, not for nothing, but Alkmi's desire to want everyone to understand dialectic materialism is like how we got here. And so I need you to like not do that. Like, don't do the like, I'm not worthy thing. Like, let that go because you are. And listen, that's just going to be what it is. But
I just need the co-sign now. You will have to chill with that because I see the chats and I've been paying attention. So enough already.
Right. And so like, you're almost as bad as Jared with that. So you see how I did that?
Okay.
Listen, let me just say this. Luna is a goddess, but she is a loving goddess. And she is a very approachable, down-to-earth goddess. So, I mean, we can be worshipful, but
this is so important to me because I feel like you all might not even understand how you just crystallized why this study is important. And in my head, what I believe I want people to walk away understanding is if you can study the dialectics and understand the importance of the relationships and the things being in constant motion and the constant like push and pull of it, right? Then you're all coming to the solution part from the same place. So it's not just the material value in understanding this is allowing for the room to work from the same understanding and to work in the same space and to kind of get away from the continuous struggle of like, well, this is what I think and this is what I think and what do you think? And that constant like that circling the drain that happens. Because EJ, that story you told about trying to start the organization, good gravy. How many times have I like lived through that, right? And so I think I'm gonna put on the list that I'm gonna watch because I haven't watched these videos about the democratic socialism, although it's a concept that I'm familiar with, and I think in here
democratic centralism, sister. Sorry, not democratic socialism.
Sorry, say sorry. What I get?
Democratic centralism, not democratic socialism. I'm like, not the same thing.
See, I got too much shit on the brain. So centralism, correct. And so I feel a little proud of myself. And Jared, you can tell me if I'm giving myself too much credit, but I feel like I've been quietly enforcing this on the back end at Black Liberation Media as we've been pushing towards this cooperative structure. Like the whole
hashtag not all hierarchies are bad.
Am I giving myself too much credit, Jared?
You independently come up with it.
I just don't want to talk about it lest we mess it up. So just thank you and keep it up. Yes.
All right. So
wait,
I think
Sister Comrade, I'm sorry, but before moving on, do you mind if I?
No, I don't want to move on, and I want you to go.
Okay.
I just
because I had a little bit of thoughts on that.
Yeah, because I need you to talk. I just want to make sure that my understanding of that accurate. Like the point in this study is so we get to a place where we're all trying to formulate these ideas and plans from a similar understanding of how these relationships work. Like that's the basis of it. Am I right? Oh, look at me getting it right. Look at that. Alkmi. Give all of it. Well, not all of it, because we only have 2 hours. Give a little bit, and then.
No. Just on this question. I think I have some, maybe a different answer, maybe a different relationship to the material than comrades EJ and Luna. But that was a spot on answer, and I absolutely feel 150% of that. But as well as especially to your audience and Dr. Jab, Sister Comrade Renee, directly to you guys, directly to the question, can you kind of use these categories and these laws practically, in our praxis as organizers, right? Hashing out the daily disputes or the daily non-antagonistic contradictions. I would honestly just differ slightly in what, Brother EJ was saying, and not just, having historical mat, which is extremely important, of course, but literally, I don't want to, I love the last video you guys did with Comrades Luna and EJ. I'm going to borrow something from what EJ said. I don't want you guys to think I'm in a cult. It's going to sound like it, but this shit literally changed my life. And this shit I use every day in a personal, selfish, individual way to abrogate contradictions at work in my corporate hellhole. Yeah. And his mat is important, but let me give you some concrete examples, all of you. Honestly, Comrade Renee, just expanding on what EJ said about a lot of needless arguments don't need to be had. What Sister Luna said about you become more efficient of a worker, Vietnamese or American, this shit makes you more streamlined because it reduces wasted movement, to use a martial arts phrase. Mm-hmm. I'll just go down the line of my favorite anatomy of dialectical materialism, which is the 2 principles, the 6 category pairs, and the 3 laws, which is, I think, first of all, it's a line in your comments, Comrade EJ, that really, really got me. It's something I tell everyone in my partner ad infinitum. Just because something isn't seeable and touchable doesn't make it not objectively there. You know what I'm talking about. It's during the empiricism section. It's during what dialectical materialism has over previous forms of materialism. It could grapple with things like capital, like debt. I'm going to add my own stuff in here, like emotional trauma, right? Like pain, relational pain. These things are real. They objectively exist. Dr. Jab, I'm not even started with you. That's the start of you and me's friendship. There's stuff that you can't touch, comrades, that is still technically matter because it exists in the social relational level of material existence, processes and systems, right, that we're embedded in. Comrade Renee, I found that dialectical materialism, first of all, the principle of general relationships, everything's defined by the relationships, internal and external. It lets you see things that are invisible. It lets you see things that aren't there, that touch you every day, like capital or like debt, right? A lot of times, especially with our comrades, sometimes people don't quite know where the characteristics of something come from or its properties. It comes from its relationships. Already right there, like that central tenet of materialist dialectics, Sister Comrade, that is like an antidote to so much of metaphysical thinking that I think avails a lot of our organizers and thinkers and activists in the West. A lot of people don't exactly know where to zone in on to find the source of a certain thing's aspects. Like, where did this fight come from? What characterizes, this part of our organization that doesn't like the other part? Or, why are people having the kinds of problems they are between each other? I'll go on. Having the processual framework, obviously in the West, we see things metaphysically in the sense that things are stultified, static, they're not changing all the time. That immediately breaks you out of kinds of mindsets of like, oh, where did this thing come from? This thing came out of nowhere. This development in my relationship with my grandma or my partner or, the folks that I'm used to seeing every day. Where did this come from? This came out of nowhere. My partner herself, she says the law of quantity of quality, Renee, really, really helped her get out of that mindset of not seeing that a thing had a historical precedent, that all things are process in motion. And the history is one of the keys to seeing where certain trends emerge from, right? I don't even need to give you guys solid examples. There's so much unnecessary harm and interpersonal antagonisms that occur every day, not just in our organizing, but that too, when you don't have the ability to see, historical trends, which is very important in, the principle of development and the principle of general relationships. Moving on more solidly to the pairs, I think so many people get into needless debates, Comrade EJ, to your point, because they don't understand there's a dialectic between particular things and general things, right? Dogmatism, revisionism, it's okay to have categories, but if you don't understand that you have to do practice to understand as many particulars as possible before you can induce generals or commons. I'm not going to name any names, but we're going to waste a lot of time talking about whether something's socialist or not, or whether something's anti-imperialist or not, Comrade Renee, in our debates. With reason and result, I've tended to notice it's very powerful to understand that all changes come from mutual impacts between things. The opposite is the way a lot of us USians think, right? You guys, oh, where'd that change come from? It came out of nowhere. It just fell out of the sky or from God, right? Or the opposite, right, comrades? When two things mutually impact each other, they always make a change. So many Americans don't think that. Oh, I'm just going to talk to this person and it's not going to change me or them. Or I'm going to talk to this fascist, spend time debating these pat socks. It's not going to affect me and my audience. It's just going to affect them. We tend to have a unidirectional, understanding of interaction, right, Sister Luna? So Renee, like when it comes to reason and result, it helps us see that shit has consequences. And when stuff changes, it was due to two things tangling together.
Yes.
A lot of times there's needless blame like placed on individuals, or there's not an ability to understand there's internal mutual impacts that causes changes, or external, or mediated or immediated. Necessity and accident, people get in a lot of trouble when you just assume you can rely on inevitabilities, right? And you should also not just assume everything's accidental. There are no laws and trends to discover. Especially you, Sister Luna, when you had your 6 categories, I love that video. I've seen it like 17 times, I swear to God. Something she said, you guys really, really got me, which is every situation, it's a very East Asian, Southeast Asian way of thinking about it. Every situation has a little bit of both randomness and obviousness, necessity and accident. And through practice, through learning about your situation, changing the size of your analytical scope, you can actually make things that used to be accidental or random obvious or necessary. Just as long as you make whatever you're analyzing that was previously accidental be now internal to your scope of analysis. So, Comrade Renee, how much time and praxis is lost in organizations when people can't identify properly the cause of certain trends that are inevitable, things that might keep repeating or haunting the organization or the group because certain contradictions weren't resolved, right, in a proper way. And at the same time, a lot of people can get complacent and then they just get into trends and they expect necessity and obviousness to govern their whole daily experience. And yet, you know, you have to understand that there's always the shadow of the opposite of obviousness, which is randomness. Everything's an open system. So everything can receive mutual impacts that aren't necessarily encoded into the laws and trends that we've internalized. You always have to update your consciousness to reality as it changes, because truth is always changing, right? Truth is concrete, relative, absolute, you know, and historical, right? And content and form, like, honestly, we could go on for, you know, many minutes that we won't right now about how like organizational structure of something has an impact with its substance. And this can go from groups of people. This can go from, yes, chairs, brother. It can go all the way up to governmental forms of social formations, right? The Republican and Democrat Party. Even I love that you two are artists. My partner and I are artists and communist couple too. Dr. Jab, your field specifically, which I know isn't direct activism, but you know, your theoretical work with apartheid capitalism, with media, content and form has a whole section in Luna's book, part 1, on how art has content and form and how this dialectic can really help us understand the structure of media, of messaging, of a thespian play, a work of art, you know, the sinner's film, you know, certain semiological messaging from our enemy. Content and form, Comrade Renee, it really helps demystify people of having wrong opinions or metaphysical idealist errors in their consciousness when it comes to analyzing things like art or analyzing things like an organization. Just very quickly, just to the 3 laws, possibility reality is like priceless, because a lot of people know possibility reality exists, right, you guys? But a lot of USians don't realize there's different requirements for different kinds of possibilities. Some possibilities are spontaneous, like necessary ones. Others are practical possibility. You need a human input in order to make it happen. A lot of people, Comrade Dr. Jab, to borrow on Daruba and the BLA, a lot of people don't properly assess their subjective conditions and subjective factors needed for certain possibilities to be realized, especially in social life, like things outside of my mind, in my objective material conditions, and things of the human level of initiate, right, and initiation. So I find that a lot of wasted time also gets spent, Comrade Renee, on not knowing how to properly classify, how to turn opportunities into realities or take advantage of certain things that weren't necessarily there to begin with, right? And then just very quickly, the 3 laws. I think the most powerful thing for me, which was supplemented by my understanding of Chinese dialectical materialism, this wasn't in the Vietnamese book, but this may be in the one for students who specialize in it. I have some questions for you later if we have time, but I don't expect that. But long story short, the Chinese place a lot of emphasis in their pedagogy of dialectical contradictions on the primary and secondary aspects of a contradiction and the primary and secondary contradictions in a contradictory system. The Vietnamese do too. But one thing that really gets me, Comrade Renee, I included in my slideshow from our Chinese brothers and sisters is, one, with quantity and quality law, if you want to stabilize stuff, because everything's a process changing, but if you want to certain aspects of something to be static or unchanging at this moment in time, you have to identify which quantities keep the quality within that certain identity it has and keep it there. Don't let it go above or beyond. I'm sure the Vietnamese do too, just not in the book, you know. But that is really something that Americans don't understand, Comrade. That's a very concrete thing. People don't. Why was our organization was awesome when it was 19 people? Now it's 100. We didn't have these problems before. Where did they come from? They must have come out of nowhere. EJ, like, you don't even need historical mat here, even though it's beautiful. A lot of these things every day do come from metaphysical thinking, but there is a lot of emphasis, practice. There is a lot of practical value you can get just from these laws and pairs too. You guys feel me? And then with the contradictions, a lot of people don't realize there's a unity of opposites in everything, and that's where the motion of something's coming from. But I'm sorry, I digress. I'll be here all day. But yeah, that's just a
That's really good.
That was
I would say you graduated from the diamag semester.
100%. No, that was like a really excellent survey. I would say if you're watching this and you were lost on anything that was just said, it's all in the base. That was like the table of contents for this book. So I mean, like you hit all the greatest hits. No, that was a really excellent survey of I think some of the the most important principles when it comes to okay. And again, this can sound overwhelming, and I know that, especially with all the stuff that sounds kind of jargony and a lot of words. A lot of words in dialectical materialism, we use them like a little differently than you might be used to. Yeah. In like common parlance or whatever in the U.S. And a lot of that is because these are some of the words in this book, the way we use it in dialectical materialism, it's the original meaning of the word. And then bourgeois civil society has changed and developed and in a lot of cases distorted the meaning over the last century and a half. So but anyway, and I think that the linguistic aspect of it is actually quite interesting, but we don't want to get bogged down in the metaphysical language aspect, because a lot of times people so like I made a video a while back, and it said I was talking about how that it was about like individualism and conformism and collectivism, and I just said that like individualism, the way we look at it in Marxism, is always a bad thing. It's like a deviation. So individualism, the way we define it, is like when you overemphasize the individual, or you place too much importance on like the individual as like the center of society and the center of the universe or whatever. And somebody replied in my comments and they were like, that's not what individualism means. Individualism means blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you about what the word individualism means. I'm telling you how we define it in this framework, and you could use it or not.
What you say is individuality, but anyway, I'm not going to get into the argument with you because of the definition.
Right. Luna, I know Luna.
Luna knows more English better than these English motherfuckers.
Right. I know you get really frustrated by that, because it's just like, I don't think that arguments like that happen in Vietnam, where you're like arguing about like, no, this word has one specific definition and you can only use my favorite.
And if you don't agree with me, you're wrong.
Right. Talk about idealism. That's like
talk about idealism. No, exactly.
And I'm actually not joking. That is actually a great example of the kind of thing that A, can organically wreck an organization, or B, even more importantly, we need to understand this. Bad actors can come into our organizations and easily wreck us. And if you ever have time, go find an old, like what OSA CIA manual on how to wreck an organization. That's one of the biggest things. Argue over little insignificant details, or the definitions of words is like a specific thing that they suggest in these CIA like infiltration manuals on how to destroy an organization.
So non-dialectical practices are literally counterinsurgent, is what you're telling me.
Yes.
There's a reason why they have systematically dismantled the study of Marxism in American universities and European universities, and why we have these like horrible.
And why you emphasize so much on individualism?
Right.
Okay. Society.
There's so much stuff I want to unpack from what Alkmi said. One of the things you talked about was how it impacts your like your work and your normal day-to-day life, and how it helps you to be more productive. And one of the things that Luna and I have realized is it helps our relationship as like romantic partners, because like for instance,
literally
we live in this little shoebox apartment right now, right? It's a good location, but it's literally like, that's our kitchen, this is our bed, we're sitting on our bed, we have a little desk, that's the room, that's it. It's about as big as like a college dorm room. No kidding.
Yeah.
And we realized that we were kind of having some friction, and we were just like, you know what? It's because we were living in a much bigger space, and then we moved into the smaller apartment because we liked the location better. And anyway, we're just like, we're just like too close to each other. Like the material conditions of our environment are affecting our relationship in this palpable way. And it's like, once we realized that, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to go for a walk sometimes, or like, we're going to build this little space over here where Luna can just kind of like sit with her phone and relax sometimes, like have our own spaces
I
within
think
this.
the most important point is that diamond have you like, okay, we don't hate each other. We hate each other because of the material
We hate each other.
conditions around us.
It helps you
We
not
hate each
moralize
other
things
for
as much, you know?
ourselves. It's about the surrounding situations.
Well, what we did was we were just like, okay, we're arguing more why. Like, and
Yes.
that was like something where before I started studying dialectical materialism, I wouldn't have. I'm sure like that's probably something that a relationship counselor could have taught us or something, but it was just something where we're just like, okay, let's figure out what relationships are causing this development, because we weren't like Alkmi was saying, it wasn't like this 6 months ago. So what has changed? Let's look at the relationships. Let's look at
Yes.
the development history. Let's look at what we haven't accounted for. And let's also look at the objective. And again, remember, like, objective doesn't just mean you can touch and feel it. It's also like the
Relationship.
Anything
yeah,
outside your
and
head.
as a side note, Marx came up with that whole idea of like how we define objectivity, because he was trying to understand what money is and why money is important. And so money is a really good example of something that is objective and, you know, economically material, but you can't actually touch money. You can touch a dollar bill,
But the
but the dollar bill
value
is not
of that
money.
money is untouchable.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm just excited because there were so many. But where was I going with all that? So all that's to say, and Renee, this brings us to the podcast episode that you shared with us. One of the things we really need to understand is our role in the superstructure and how it is important.
Yes,
As
yeah.
activists, as organizers,
Mhm.
as revolutionaries. The really important thing you have to understand is that dialectical materialism is not mechanical materialism, which means that the objective material economic conditions don't 100% completely determine our consciousness and our activities and our organizations and that sort of thing, right? And a lot of people misinterpret this and they think, okay, basically we don't have free will. We're just like pushed forward by these like economic forces.
You do have free will.
Not only do we have will, but like our role as activists and organizers is very, very, very crucial, because the situation we're in right now, as a spoiler for the part 2 of the book on historical materialism, capitalism as a political economy has had the objective material conditions for communist revolution since Marx was writing 150, 200 years ago. The conditions are already met in terms of the economic situation. The only thing that hasn't happened is we haven't had, especially, you know, in the USA, we haven't had the social revolution to bring about a socialist transition into communism. And the only thing that needs to happen for us to have that revolution is we, the workers, the working class, needs to come together, develop class consciousness, develop political parties and corresponding ideologies that are revolutionary, and have a friggin' revolution.
Freaking organized.
And that's all. That is all superstructural activity.
Mm.
So none of this is to discount our ideas and our actions and our behavior as individuals, as the working class.
It encourages you.
Yeah, you should feel encouraged, because like a lot of people read this stuff and they're like, oh, well, I guess that means that I as an individual can't do anything, and I guess this means that we as workers, we just have to, you know, wait for
Suck it up.
the economic conditions to push for a revolution. But no, it's like we play a very important role in our life. And again, going back to the example of me and Luna with our tiny apartment, we are not just, you know, beholden to this environment. You know, we could move, but we found other solutions. You know, we were able to, through discussion and through practice, come up with solutions that have helped to kind of lubricate our relationship and solve that underlying contradiction, right? And that is human activity. That's social activity. You know, that's something that we did in a superstructural way, and through our relationship and through discussing it and through practice,
Yes.
solve the problem, right? So that's another. It's just really important to understand that, because a lot of people get the wrong idea that dialectical materialism is just this like sort of there is no free will. We're all just pushed forward by the
We all
forces
determined by the material 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the point, I think the whole thing of this book is you learn what things really are, and you know that you can change it and how to change it.
That's important. Yeah. Understanding how you do change things and how things develop. And again, like Alkmi was saying, like organization side, there's a lot of times where I've been in an organization or people, hey, we're trying to start this new organization. Do you want to participate? I jump into like I don't know, a Signal chat group or a Discord server or something. And suddenly there's like 78 people in there. There's not even been any development about like what we're even really trying to accomplish. There's way too many people to have that discussion. It's like there was no account, and literally I've done this myself. I've been the one who has made this mistake, where there's no groundwork laid and there's no consideration into how things develop. Where it's like, okay, before we can bring 125 people into this Discord server to start discussing how we're going to build this organization, or before we can have like a free-for-all event where everyone just like piles in and we just like maybe we need to have a little seed group first, where we get some kind of focus and definition on what we want to accomplish and some of the organizing principles and that sort of thing. When it's a smaller group and you can be more focused on that sort of thing, and then think about the development.
I never thought about that, but it's exactly how our Communist Youth Union function in Vietnam. First of all, we would have a group of like less than 10 people as the real leader, the guiders of the group, and then they are like the core first, and then they have a strong, knowledge and, all kinds of experience. Then they do the interview to recruit like 100 of new people like me join the first year. And then what I do, like, but I did not have an equal say as the freaking 10 of the leader, because I didn't know shit. So what I do was like, okay, we all need to respect, and then we receive a little bit of like organizing kind of education. Like, you need to respect, learn, you can raise your voice and your concerns, but most of all, because you don't have a knowledge and experience, you have to accept that. So mostly listen to those people and then to the leaders. And then after a year of working together, we like slowly will promote into like, oh, we are group leader now. And then we now the so something that, and the second and the third and the fourth year, we become the guiders of the newer group. Yeah. So that's
how like applying the quantity quality law, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. You have to think about the stages of development. And again, also, none of this stuff is like the reason that we use chairs, the reason we drew pictures of chairs and cups of water and things like that, and apples and a guy eating breakfast, right? Like, the reason that we do that is because we really wanted to communicate that this is a universal framework, and there are no like hard laws.
Yeah.
Because what Luna's talking about with the Ho Chi Minh Youth Union, that framework is not a universal framework that you can use for any organization. It's something that they've developed for their material conditions and their society and their conditions. It's not necessarily going to work for what you're doing, right? Because a lot of people are going to hear what Luna just said and be like, oh, well, I don't like that structure, therefore Marxism sucks, right? Because it's like, no, the point isn't that there are these like dogmatic, axiomatic, you have to build an organization in this way. There are ways to build organizations that have, like, some organizations require way more structure and rules, and some need to be more flexible and dynamic.
Yeah.
And some need to, we need mass organizations that have thousands of members, and we need to have ways of communicating and decision making in that kind of mass organization. But we also need some smaller, you know what I mean? So it's like, what this teaches you is to have a comprehensive perspective of the situation, to look at all the relationships, and to make decisions for your organizational development and structure that are it's really just about
and then how structure you choose, it depends a lot on the purpose. What is the purpose of you having this organization joining, and based on that purpose you can build what is the more suitable structure and how to go through this.
It's about intentionality. So like when I learned this from photography, right? So I studied photography in college, and how to use a camera. And one of the things the first thing that my photography professor said was, the difference between a professional photographer and somebody who just likes taking pictures is that a professional photographer is understanding every aspect of like the decision that goes into snapping that shutter button. So like, you know what the aperture is doing, you know what the shutter speed is doing, you know how all of these different things are impacting the image that's coming out.
Yes.
You're having intentionality in how you're generating this image. You're not just like point and shoot, right?
Yeah.
You're all these things are, you understand all these different angles and aspects and everything, and it's all going into that decision-making process. And that is what we as organizers and activists have a responsibility to do, is to have a comprehensive and historical perspective on how we're building these organizations, so that it's not just randomly happening without any kind of control. We understand this is impacting this is determining this, these relationships are really important, these that is what we need to be trying to do. And that's what hopefully these books that Luna's translating will help you to have this kind of like perspective on how we build these organizations and how human society advances.
Thank you. So Jared a few times did, I don't know if y'all caught the head nod and the eyebrows, because when I tell you, I have literally watched Jared go through some of these stages of like trying to, like, how did we get here? And how is this happening right now? And how the fuck do I get out of this without losing my mind on somebody, right? And so
you in the void right now, Dr. Jack.
Oh, listen, I mean, I can't even. So let me back up a little bit. So one of the reasons that I really wanted Alkmi here, in part, is because I wanted him to be able to speak to this in a way that the people who were also on the screen had a fucking clue about what he was talking about. So I'm always like going back and rewatching, because sometimes I'm like, he said it and it made sense in like the second when he was talking, and now I have no idea what the hell he just said. So let me go back.
That's me every time.
Miscomprehension.
Right. Right. So part of what we've been doing is like this little study session where Alkmi comes in and he breaks things down little by little. And so we're going to continue that process also. So for people who watched everything that just happened and they're like, wait, what? Like what just happened? So one, don't feel bad, because I'm with you. I got you. I got your back. Tomorrow, go back and re-listen, and then like if you after like the 5th time, you should be good, right? Like, because this is what it takes. Like, I'm not, I'm joking, but I also sincerely mean it. Like, this is what like it takes, and this is why you study it in a group, and this is why you don't try to navigate this like on your own and without having conversations with other people, because you are inevitably going to have questions. Why? Because we didn't grow up in Vietnam like Luna to be able to think and breathe this without even having a second thought. And, EJ, we talked the last time about the language, right? The difference in language, and how as you're reading this, and this is my struggle still when you say something, I'm like, that doesn't mean the thing that you think it means. Don't forget, like, it means something else. And that language is so, and I think even just understanding that there's this massive differential in the language of some of these things, and it's a block. Like, it literally creates this incapacity to say like, oh, well, that makes sense, because you're so busy trying to fit the dialectic understanding into your definition of what the word means. And it's never going to fit. Like, it's the square peg in the round hole, because it literally doesn't mean the same thing.
You just have to get a new board.
Right. And so would you agree that also part of this process has to be kind of formulating this solid understanding of language and words, and like what things mean within your organization, right? Like, this is part of the whole content informed thing, right? Like, understanding what's happening in the organization, how it's impacted by what's happening out of the organization, how that like that relationship as it shifts and flows. These are the moments when I wish my camera could be on, because if y'all could see me right now with the hand gestures and the trying to like, you know, like I'm swimming over here. And so like am I am I following this correctly? Like am I on the right? And the reason I'm asking these questions this way is because I anticipate that people who are organizers and who are trying to figure out how to utilize this material, how to utilize dialectic materialism, how to really pull all of these things out, I feel like these are the same questions they would be asking. So I want to make sure that I'm framing this properly and that I'm understanding it properly. And then just know, like, I'm totally getting cussed out in the chat right now that this is pre-recorded, because people are like, ask this. And then I'm going to have to be like, we're pre-recorded. And so I'm totally getting cussed out right now, but it's okay. I promise what we'll do is I'll take
my fault.
Well, no, it's
blame.
not your fault.
No, I'm telling them to blame me.
But here's the thing. We can't be asking EJ and Luna to be up in the middle of the night because the undefeated chat wants to ask direct questions. So,
but they'll be all right. And again, with all due respect to the undefeated chat, it's my fault. And also,
I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.
that was a good.
So we're gonna be all right. We'll be all right.
Oh man. So
well, okay, this
is that framing correct? What I just like how I just laid that out?
Yeah, so I know we appreciate so much that this is like trying to drink from a fire hose, and there's like it just can be very overwhelming, right? And I was super. We talked about, if you really want to know like the ins and outs of like how overwhelmed I was, you could watch the last episode we did with Renee, because we talked about a lot my experience learning dialectical materialism and how hard it was for me and how much I struggled with it. This
I
book.
want to scream every day when I was working with him.
This book is like a full semester, right? Or is it a year? Or
it's a half a semester, 3 months.
Oh, that's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then, yeah. So, all right. So I guess for the Vietnamese, maybe it's not that hard. For me, it took me like a long time.
In one semester, we have to finish Dimat and his math.
Okay, well,
Jesus Christ!
Humble brag.
Bruh.
It's really difficult. It was very difficult, and
that kind of undermines my point a little bit. But my point is that this is really for us who have not grown up in the environment. It can be very overwhelming. That's understandable. I think the most important things are, like Renee said, study with other people, and you will get more out of it. Like the more you are discussing this with people, especially if they're people you work with, like in terms of like activism and organizing and that sort of stuff, because then you can actually bring the problems that you're grappling with in your real practice into the discussions, and it really helps you wrap your head around things better. And Luna and I are developing a workshop. I've already done it like twice for people who like have no familiarity with these things, and we have some like exercises that we want to eventually start making public about in like worksheets and stuff on how to like use these principles. And I was thinking maybe we could just really quickly do a really simple one, because I want to prove that you don't have to know like the whole book to get started with. You can put the stuff into practice right away. And it's
that's
like
how I feel about the pairs and the laws, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like learn is like Lenin's big thing. Like you just keep learning, and the more you study it, the more you'll get out of it. And Ho Chi Minh said, you don't, if you what was it? It was like, if you only do practice and you don't learn any theory, you're just gonna have chaos. And if you only learn theory and you never do practice, you're just a human bookshelf.
Don't be a bookshelf.
Right. So I was thinking maybe we could just really quickly, just for the benefit of the audience, do a little exercise.
Yes.
And Renee, you're going to apply dialectical materialism right now. Are you up for
ready? That? Let's go.
Right.
Jared, are you ready?
I'm sharing my screen real quick. This is just kind of based on so if you want to throw that up, you can. And Renee, I need you to tell me a simple, and it could be from like your organizing work, or it could be from your personal life, or it could be from like an abstract, like hypothetical problem. But just think of a simple problem that you'd like to solve. Nothing too complicated, but just a simple problem that you are having trouble finding a solution for.
Getting answers to emails.
Getting answers to emails. Can you elaborate?
That's why Jared laughing.
Is this a subtweet at me?
I think I'm hidden behind the QR code, but I feel a little personally attacked.
I know, right?
I feel shots fired.
No, that's not, because Jared actually does answer my email. So all right, let me simplify it. How getting response so that I am clear that people are following the information that I'm presenting. Is that a better way to put it?
Sure. So your problem is you're emailing people and then they're either not replying or they're not receiving the information.
I mean, let's just to simplify it. Renee said it correctly the first time. All jokes aside, I think that's with all due respect. And thank you, Renee, for trying to clean it up for me and for us. But the issue is Renee sends these very important emails, and I and we are often just not responsive.
Okay. Let's try to think about let's define this problem by relationships, okay? So like what do you think maybe the most important relationship or relationships would be in this process in motion of emailing, correspondence?
That
relationships. So what are the different subjects, things, phenomena, ideas, people?
Okay, so sometimes I literally need the answer to a question, right?
Okay.
So I ask the question and I don't get an answer. And then I have to like circle back and guess what the answers could be. So then I send another email with like the potential answers, right? To see like if I make it multiple choice instead of open-ended, can I then get a response that allows us to move in whatever direction I'm asking the question in order for us to move toward? Does that make sense or no?
All right, it does. I'm not ready to fill this in, so we're going to do a little bit more charting out here. So we have Renee, obviously a central figure here in this system, right? We have a system of relationships we're trying to define here. So we have Renee here, and then we have, of course, the people that Renee is corresponding with. So we'll just say receivers, I guess. All right, so there's a relationship here.
The chickens, the chickens.
Right. Okay. The chickens and the
cats need to be rounded up.
So we have a relationship between these two subjects, we'll say, okay? And the problem is that it's kind of a one-way relationship right now. So Renee is just like broadcasting, and then we're concerned that there's no receipt and there's certainly no reciprocation, right? So that's where the breakdown is. Did I understand that?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And now there's an intervening subject, which is like, which is email itself, right? Like that's your medium. So we're just mapping out. All we're doing is we're making a relationship map, right? Like you did this in elementary school, probably, right? Like a little flow chart. So Renee, email, receivers. There's this problem. So what do you think? Has anybody ever given you any feedback as to like why they have trouble receiving and reciprocating with email? Do you have any information about that?
No. So here's what eventually happens is I just start coming after people individually. So I start making phone calls and sending text messages and sending group chats. And then eventually I get to where I need to go. But in the end, I'm always like, if these motherfuckers would just answer my first email, like we could have got this resolved like 2 weeks ago without me having to do the extra work of the texting and the calling and the did you get, because people read
If you know, you know.
emails. And what I get often is, no, your emails are fine. And they're actually really informative and they're very helpful. And it's almost like, well, if you feel that, why the hell don't you answer the email? And that's the part of it that I'm not quite, because I'm sure it's me, right? Like Jared's going to say it's not you, but it is me, because people are not used to, I think in general, people are not used to this level of communication with things. And I am a person who likes for things to be direct and in writing, and I try to be concise, but it's difficult because there's so much stuff that needs to get done. And I feel like once we get to a place where it's not like, you know, when we get to a place where it's not so many things that need to be decided, like this will feel less stressful. So, you know, it's trying to get to that place of where when you get my email, you're like, all right, cool. She just needs this quick answer. Let me answer her real quick. And you don't feel overwhelmed by it. So, yeah.
So what you're identifying right now is what we would call a social consciousness form. Okay. And we talk about this gets discussed in historical materialism, but basically you can think of it as sort of an ideology. Okay. It's maybe more of like a layman's term for what we're talking about. And you're talking about a philosophy and a methodology for communication that you have a very highly developed, as an individual, you have a very highly developed consciousness about this, right? So Renee's relationship to this social consciousness form about communication is very developed. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Okay. And then the problem is this relationship that your receivers don't have highly developed. So the social consciousness is not highly developed. Your individual consciousness is very developed, but the social consciousness is not very developed. And are we talking about one specific, you don't have to name names or anything, but are we talking about one specific like group of people, or is this just like all throughout your life? or you could, of course, this could all be hypothetical.
I mean, so it is actually.
Let me change my question. Is there a group that you would like to prioritize in improving this?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's just put it that way. Okay. So now we have a little anonymity in who we're talking about. Okay. So let's just say that with this group that you're trying to develop, they need their social consciousness developed so that they are closer to the level where you are. So right now you're more advanced than they are. And by the way, this is a major problem that we as workers all have to grapple with, because in all of our different problems that we're trying to solve, because in the USA especially, we're in the belly of the beast, and systematically we have been like undeveloped by the ruling class for like generations, right? So we're always going to be developing with the problem that ourselves and our fellow workers are at different levels of like development of social consciousness and of practical skill and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is like a classic problem where you have more knowledge and more awareness and more experience with this, and then the people you're dealing with have a lower development level. So to me, it feels like that relationship between you and the social consciousness that you think is very important, and then the relationship between your receivers, there's like a disconnect. So this doesn't give you like the full solution, but it maybe gives you some idea of like, maybe you need to do some kind of education or training with people, like a workshop or a dialogue, something where you're actually just like systematically and intentionally elevating the social consciousness with this group, just starting with the group that you want to prioritize with the target first. And then you can see how that works and if it actually improves things or not with that kind of pilot group. And then if it works really well, you can like use that same methodology with other groups and adjust as you go along. Or if it doesn't work really well, go back to the drawing board, try something else. But just to help you get a little bit of a deeper understanding of the problem you're grappling with, I would say you're currently at a stage of development with how you communicate with people, right? Like you're currently in this moment, you have a certain relationship with how you correspond with people. What do you think the last stage of development was? Like, what's the last time when it was like markedly, essentially different than how things are now? Like, was there a point where you developed, or was there a point where your systems developed or your consciousness developed? You know, like what was the last stage of development for how you corresponded with people?
That's a good question. I don't know, Jared. So I'm gonna have to phone in a friend.
That's a good. Could it be before you got this role, Sister Comrade? Before you got this role at all? Before you were in this position to send out those? Could that be the last stage?
No, because part of the reason that I am the way I am is because as a person who has always had to work within like a group, like I've always been part of a department or part of a system, a part of a thing. And so I naturally am a person who tends to write things out, because for me, I always want to be able to go back to the thing and be like, what they say again about this thing. So it's more of creating like a historical record, so that if someone needs to say like, what'd she say about this? Or what was the thing about this? Or whatever, they can just search their email and then it'll be there, because that's how I tended to always find information.
So this would be, to borrow a term from Lenin, you've been in a state of equilibrium for quite a while, where you haven't really developed. You've been at this stage of development for like a long time. Is that kind of what? Okay.
Yes.
When were you not at this level of development? It might have been when you were like 5 years old. I don't know. But what was the point where you were like at a lower stage of development where you were not as
this is probably something that I learned between college and grad school, I would say.
Okay. And what do you think? So okay, let's just say student Renee, this was you in a lower stage of development. What was the main relationship that you had that made you develop to this level of, was it like a job you had? Was it a particular professor who taught you a lot? What was the relationship that brought you to this stage of development you're at now? Because now we're looking at, so what this was, just so everyone knows what I'm doing, this over here with the circles was a comprehensive analysis of what's happening now and all the different relationships that exist right now. Now we're doing a historical analysis of how Renee got to this level of social consciousness that she has now. So what do you think was like the most important relationship? And there were probably a lot of different relationships, but just for the sake of this discussion, what was like one of the most important relationships that brought you to this level of social consciousness?
You know what? I told you a lie. It was before college. It was, I mean, I was still a student, but it was high school, because we started what they call them affinity groups now, but we started essentially what is now an affinity group then, because we had to figure out a way to get some of the things that we felt like we weren't getting in the environment. And so part of that process was learning to communicate with each other, communicate with the administration, communicate with the teachers, so we got into the habit of like writing everything down so that we could be clear about like what we wanted and how we wanted to tell people what we wanted. And so that was like an exercise that I participated in at that time that worked really well. And just side note for people, that little affinity group that I started in high school is still going, and it's been like 35 years. So I'm very proud of myself for that. But
that must feel awesome. That's really cool.
So that I think that's, as I'm thinking about it, I feel like that's the first time that I really had to work within a group of people to learn how to communicate with each other and to use each other to communicate with the outside world.
And so it was the practice of working with those people that taught you. It wasn't like you had a mentor or a teacher. It was like you just learned it through the practice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's totally valid. So that means that you had a major development where you transitioned from one stage of development, student Renee, to this more advanced form of social consciousness that you have now. And we're obviously collapsing things and oversimplifying, things a lot, but in essence, this was like a big step forward in your social consciousness of communication and correspondence. And so maybe what you can do, understanding your own personal development and what helped you understand that, as you are developing whatever framework you have, whether it's like a lecture or maybe you're writing a book, maybe you're making a YouTube video, making, whatever kind of material you want to make to help elevate the social consciousness of, and I'm going to write down here, we'll call it a pilot group, whoever they might be, not naming any names, but if in your attempt to advance the social consciousness of this pilot group, you might want to reflect back on that experience you had with your affinity group, because you might be able to learn something from how you developed and what worked for you to advance your social consciousness as you're developing materials to teach this pilot group, right? And of course, we could expand this chart out, to make it massive. There's probably like.
Could I add just something supplementary to your little schema, comrade?
Sure. Yeah.
Keeping it within your schema, comrade. And this is beautiful, Sister Luna, comrade EJ. You tell me if what I'm saying just sounds like bullshit or not, because you guys are the teachers. Sister Renee, what my teachings from Vietnamese and Chinese materialist dialectics tell me in this particular situation. I'm going to add on to what EJ and Luna is saying. I'm going to say new things, but it'll all build off of this. What are some contradictions in your situation? Locate some unities of opposites. On the one hand, Renee wants to get a response. On the other hand, the people can't. I'm going to use names that are real, but these aren't the real people that are in the real situation. These are just the names of people we know in this still sphere. Okay, here's another unity of opposites, Renee. That's not your primary one, but it's something defining your situation. On the one hand, Kamal wants to answer you, but on the other hand, his kid stops him from doing that. So it's not that he doesn't want to. On the one hand, Amber wants to answer you, but on the other hand, it's not you that's putting her off. Her dog just stops her from doing that. On the one hand, maybe it's not even like the way that Renee's putting it out, but everyone's just happening to fall under accidents at the certain moment in time whenever she puts stuff out. I don't know. But basically, Renee, what I would say generally is locate contradictions, locate unities of opposites, find the one that's determining your situation or determining the situation of the person you're looking at, zooming in on in this situation, like person A, person B, person C, and which side is keeping things the way they are, and work to overwhelm that or help them overwhelm that or eliminate accidents or possibilities that may stop them from, answering you and creating your problem. And then I would also say, when it comes to EJ's historical segment, you had a contradiction, Sister Renee. You did once, and it drove you to develop in the way that you are now, which is a high level of social consciousness to communicate, right? Well, identify commons and particulars. Do you think you could introduce contradictions in the people who are contradicting your need to get email responses back? Do you think you could introduce similar ones that could help them develop in a similar way to you? Or are there particular things about their situation that makes it different? See, I'm using particular in general. And then also, lastly, EJ and Luna, I would also say you could use essence and phenomenon here. Sister Comrade, when you're analyzing what's stopping each person from getting back to you or what's feeding into that, are these kind of manifestations of deeper relationships? Whether it's like, oh, I'm a mom, I can't get back to you, Renee. Oh, on the one hand, Renee, I'm part of BLM, but on the other hand, I can't engage with you as much as you need me to. Did that all make sense? Locate contradictions, find the weak point, drive change.
Yes. No, and that's that's exactly why I was saying. That's exactly what I was trying to say earlier was that, like, the more you learn this stuff, the more useful it'll be, because basically what you could do, Renee, too, is you could go through this book and you can look at every category pair. And I do this all, like when I'm writing a video script for my YouTube channel, I just have, like, in the back, there's actually in the appendix, it's where's that? Category pairs. Right here. Appendix A. The very first appendix. Page 246, if you have the book. There's just a list of all the category pairs, the universal category pairs, and you can just run through those. You can say, like, okay, what are the private aspects and the common aspects of my problem? What are the reason and result aspects, the obviousness and random? Because these are universally applicable, and you can just kind of run through those. It's just like literally a checklist, just to make sure that your analysis is comprehensive, right? And to piggyback on that, the reason I initially wrote email as like an important factor here in this relationship is because I personally have also struggled with like project management and developing organizations and that sort of thing. And I've found email to have a lot of problems as like as a tool, right? So you might want to look and see like, okay, are there, and this is an objective factor. This is like kind of a material condition, right? Email has a lot of problems because it's like, it's easy to miss emails. It's hard to track emails, right? So maybe what you need is like a better system than email. Maybe you like need some kind of better, and there are all kinds of different like project management systems and all kinds of platforms and all kinds of things like that. So maybe, and maybe not, maybe email is perfectly fine, but that's just an objective factor that you could analyze and see if that might be something where you can improve your communications by finding a better communication medium.
This kind of helps you leave no stone unturned, right? The dialectics with this problem.
Right. And I've always thought if somebody made I would love to see somebody make like a group organization platform, sort of like maybe like Slack or like Trello or something like that, but with like dialectical materialism as like a foundational. If somebody did that, it could be like a killer app. Like you could really be successful with that. I think. I don't know how to develop, so I can't do it, but just throwing that out into the universe.
No, this is so. I'm gonna throw out real quick so so that you all know what my scheme has been. I'm gonna let everybody in on a little secret, right? So while I was formulating how I was gonna help to organize the things, I intentionally wrote into the plan a smaller group of people who could make the decisions that were not super impactful, were not going to cost a lot of money, but were going to allow us to do certain things without me having to wait for a whole lot of people to answer an email. And the job then was to get everybody to be in agreement that for 1 year, this smaller group of people would be entrusted to make the decisions. They would be entrusted to bring the larger decisions back to the group and to not make large decisions without everyone's input. But they would be entrusted to make those smaller decisions that allow us to move forward without everybody having to make decisions on my emails.
Yes.
So I intentionally wrote this into the plan because I knew that I was going to have a hard time getting answers to my emails. So my thought was, if I could get a smaller group of people who already normally respond to me, and we start the process with that small group, and then we see how it goes. And, you know, that group is always mostly rotating aside from the people who do like the data stuff, because you don't need to rotate out like a data person. Like they have a standard job that doesn't really change too much. But the people who are basically representatives of the rest of everyone else have to change frequently so that there's never one particular person who's always in charge. So the secret is that I pre-planned this knowing that I was going to have to find a way to get decisions made without having to rely on dozens of people making the decision. And that just like, we're just in that phase now. So I'm very excited that like I can stop sending these mega emails out to everybody, and I can send direct messages to a smaller group of people. And then once decisions are made and people need to know, okay, here's the next set of changes, then that's the email everybody will get.
That's really great. Yeah. So that's exactly what I was notating here on this little chart, is that you're talking about the superstructural institutional. So, you know, again, in the historical materialism book, we talk about like institution and ideology. You're talking about the institutional organization of your, you know, this pilot group you're talking about. And you're going to have to think about how that's all organized superstructurally. You're going to have to think about the objective factors of like what kind of communication platforms, how you're using email, how you're using other things. And then communication, social consciousness, the ideology. There's a relationship between, we'll call this the institution, right? And then this is like the ideology. There's a relationship here that's very important. as the structure of the, and when you talk about dialectical relationships, you want to talk about how you want to make things suitable with each other. So you want to make the structure of this institution, your pilot group, suitable with the social consciousness that you're trying to develop. And likewise, as the social consciousness of the group develops, the structure will also improve, right? That's what you want to create, like this synergy, this kind of like beneficial relationship. You don't want you want to find friction points and negate this is Ho Chi Minh said this. I'm oversimplifying what he said, but basically find the good aspects and develop them, find the negative aspects and negate them, right? That's what you want to do. Negation law. Right. And then as you do that over time, you're going to find as the social consciousness of your group develops, they'll have ideas for improving the organizational structure. They'll have ideas for improving the institution. And then as the institution develops, naturally your social consciousness develops because you're learning what works and what doesn't. And then hopefully you can communicate that to other groups and bring it into other aspects. And then, the last thing I would say is this may sound a little cheesy and like stereotypical for a communist to say this, but always keep in mind things like capitalism, all these other objective factors that are affecting and influencing everyone you're dealing with, right? Like Comrade Alkmi said, like if somebody's kids are sick or whatever, under capitalism, that's going to be a big detriment to communication, right? So we have to think about these like wider political economic factors that really do impact. And,
it's literally helped my girlfriend to solve family disputes. Literally the communist lens for family relations under capitalism.
Unironically, and it's helped me with like my mental health. I mean, like, because I was very fortunate to find a therapist who is a Marxist and understands, the importance of the political economy in our mental health as individuals. And that really helped me have a lot of breakthroughs with my mental health, So like this stuff, it sounds kind of big. Like what does capitalism have to do with Renee's like email problems, right? But it does have a very
everything to do with everything.
Yeah. So I don't know if this was like useful.
No, this was Jared. I need to know. Do you feel like I'm phoning a friend? I need to know what you think. And you're muted. Don't forget to unmute yourself. There you go.
No. I knew I was muted. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, fruitful, informative, enlightening, inspiring, and that we should leave it there.
I want to make one note. I talked a lot. I know I talked a lot, and we didn't get to hear as much from Luna as. It's only because I have done this workshop twice, so that's why I kind of ran that last.
Also, I trust EJ in doing this because I'm sorry, but my biggest weakness is I don't understand your weaknesses. So like I'm not a good, explainer of all of this because I don't understand the problems that you're facing with. That is very
and Sister Luna, just not to center myself, but I don't want to be like parasocial, but you and EJ and your dynamic, I love like seeing you guys interact. Me and my significant other, we're huge fans of you, by the way. Listen, I'm an Asian American, right? I came from a Korean, Japanese background. We have Taoism too. I really felt like I've been in EJ's shoes, but I also don't feel like a lot of USians because I do still have some of our indigenous Asian dialectics intact. So I would often be able to quite literally see it from both y'all's way. Like, you're like, I don't understand why Americans don't understand quantity or relational. Exactly. And then EJ's like, no, but you don't understand because we have a complete, like Renee. So I just want to add that I have that kind of both perspective, and I do see that. And it is a huge, it can be productive tension, but it's also unproductive for us a lot of times here.
Yeah.
But I also think that's important. And EJ, I really once you settle in, and I'm sure Jared will co-sign on this, is like I would love to host one of these teachings. Like I think this would be like a fantastic thing to do if you're willing. And we can. I got a whole
PowerPoint slide deck.
There we go. We can do it. We can do it in the evening. We'll put it on Patreon first, then we'll publicize it and let everybody else get it. But I would love to do that. I think the next time when we bring you back, because y'all are never getting rid of me now, Lordy, like never. Y'all gonna be like, she's still texting. It's been 10 years. Like she's still sending me messages. But if we could do the democratic centralism, because I literally, this is how messy my brain is. I wrote socialism down, even though that's the wrong word, right? So this is like life, right?
Call up Cornell
So if we could do that next time we're all together, because I think I think that's another thing about organizing that would be good for us to get people to fully develop on, like this idea that like you can disagree with a plan and not completely destroy it, and instead figure out like the ways to like watch what's happening, participate, give feedback, help at the other end of it to make sure that the plan went or didn't go, and how do we fix, and how do we like, I think that's an important thing that people don't get. And I would like, so two things. So we'll do the workshop, and EJ, we'll figure that out. And then the next time we have to pre-record, or once Jared's sure like his like evening schedules for the in a few weeks, we can figure out like doing doing both of these over the maybe in another couple of months. We'll give you a break from me, and then we'll bring you back.
100%. No, we're totally on board.
Yeah, totally.
This is exciting.
Thinking about, since you mentioned the democratic centralism, we just talk about the problem with your email kind of thing. After you like
what? Oh,
wait. After you have those, you list out some solution, like either you choose a different platform besides email to communicate, or you have to educate your group to be the same level of using email like you bring those solution into the group that, okay, you vote. You either choose the new platform, or you need to get more communication, education. And then you have to like put the pressure, like once you vote, you have to freaking respect the result. And if you don't do it, we're going to do the group critique against you.
It's very, just a little teaser of what Luna is going to teach you about democratic centralism. It's like, even if you disagree with the group, you do everything you can to try to make the plan that you disagree with succeed. Give it a fair chance.
Yeah.
And then if it fails and you're right, then you can gloat about how awesome and smart you were at the beginning.
And then the burden would be on you. If you are right and the group were wrong, then okay, you provide a new solution.
Yeah, but no, we're totally on board. We're 100% on board.
Awesome. Thank you. So we are at time. Poor Jared's got to go to bed, and I have not had dinner yet, so I'm about to eat my hand. I got to go eat.
Calling
me. We need breakfast
and coffee.
Yes, breakfast and coffee. That's important. I'm gonna figure this out. I don't know how I'm gonna get to Vietnam, but I'm gonna figure it out. I might sneak in Jared's bag. He goes, I don't know, we need to figure this all out. But I am so appreciative of all of you. Alkmi, when I tell you this worked exactly the way I wanted it to work, I am so excited that you got to join and that you could be here. EJ and Luna, I could not thank you enough for giving time and for waking up in the morning and for joining us pre-coffee, because that's big. I really I learned so much tonight, and I really hope everybody else learned something. And put your questions in the chat, and I promise I will take note of all the questions. And then next time when we do the decentralization, we'll do it live so that the Patreon folks can enjoy. Maybe we won't wait for that to be a pre-record. We'll figure out the schedules, and we'll
and if necessary, we can always have it so that the questions people put in the comments can be asked to our guests.
EJ, you might have to handle some of the anarchist questions about that, because you know how that can go.
Yes.
Get upset.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much.
So, all right, everybody. Thank you very much to the undefeated chat that we didn't get to engage, with whom we didn't get to engage on this particular episode. Next time. And salute to your continued undefeated status. Please like, share, subscribe, put a comment, support the Patreon, do all the things. Peace, everybody. Only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And we'll catch you next time with more Saturday with Renee.
Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you.